Welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast on this Tuesday, April 29th. I want to talk a little bit about some of the undrafted free agents who I think could make impacts on NFL rosters, or at the very minimum, make NFL rosters. First guy I have, Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. He did sign with the Tennessee Titans after the draft, but this is a guy, 2023 first team All-ACC, 85 catches, almost 1,100 receiving yards in that season, 6 touchdowns, and then, again, followed it up in 2024. First team AP All-American, first team All-ACC, 69 catches, 1,127 receiving yards, 16.3 yards per reception, tied for 7th in the FBS with 11 receiving touchdowns. Guy that started every game, didn't play in the bowl game, but this is a kid that has had proven production, has shown he can be a really quality target in the slot. He's going to be a slot-only guy. 5'10", 209, so not super big, but really crafty. Knows how to maximize his skill set, knows how to run routes, when to drop down, when to sit, when to come back to the ball, give his quarterback an option, really great footwork, leverage, has quick bursts, so he's able to create separation, even though he's not the fastest in terms of flat-out speed. I think that was probably one of the main reasons that he fell all the way out of getting drafted. Was he ran about it was a 4.83 40. Really, really poor time for a wide receiver, especially a guy that is not that big, is supposed to rely more on quickness and speed. So the fact that he ran that slowly, I think that really hurt his draft stock and was probably the main reason that he fell out of being drafted. But this is a guy that I think, if you look past that tape speed, he plays faster. If you look past the speed from the combine, he plays faster on tape. He's able to create separation. He's able to sit down in routes. He picks up blitzes. He can do a lot of different things, I think. And it's a guy that is joining a really good situation in Tennessee, where they do need to add some playmakers there. Don't have a lot at the wide receiver position. I think a guy that at the minimum can make that roster and potentially even play a lot. Another guy that I think there's a different reason, but super talented, Isaiah Bond, 5'11", 180. In 2023 with Alabama, he led the team with 48 receptions, just under 700 receiving yards that year, had 11 starts, and then transferred to Texas, played in all 14 games last year, 12 starts, only 34 catches, 540 receiving yards, but he also suffered a high ankle sprain in the SEC championship game against Georgia. The big reason, though, I think he was accused of sexual assault, and Bond turned himself in on a sexual assault warrant that was issued by the Fresco Police Department in Texas on April 10th. He was released after posting bail, and then he also released a statement calling the allegations against him, quote, patently false. On April 15th, then, Bond filed a complaint with the U.S. District Court of Northern Texas, alleging he was a victim of, quote, false allegations and coercion attempt. But I think that whole situation that kind of played out legally was part of the reason that Bond fell out of being drafted. Also, I think kind of his comments before the combine, where he was claiming he was going to run a sub 4.2 40 and then ended up running right around a 4.4, ran a 4.39 official 40. But when you're claiming that you're going to run a sub 4.2 40, when you're claiming you're going to beat Matthew Golden, and then you don't really run even close to it, I think that also kind of rubbed teams the wrong way, maybe. But this is a guy that is a really talented wide receiver. He's fluid, he's fast, has a lot of untapped potential. He kind of played a decoy role for a lot of what Texas did, but clearly he has the talent to take on a more focused, productive role as a wide receiver. Pretty capable route runner, has good hands. He can kind of play outside or from the slot. And an offense that feeds him a little more dosage of targets, gives him routes that he really likes, shallow crosses, deep digs, quick throw games, kind of giving the ball, putting it in his hands, allowing him to make magic with the ball, turn a small play into a big one. That can be where Isaiah Bond can really help an NFL franchise. Is a tough player, but he can struggle sometimes on combat catches, on going against contact-oriented coverage. That's kind of some areas he struggles, but he's also just an explosive athlete, has above average skill, and a guy that I think can do a lot in an NFL offense if he gets kind of in the right system. And he still has not signed with anyone yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does end up being signed by someone, takes a flyer on him at some point. Another guy I was kind of surprised by was Seth McLaughlin, center. He did not get drafted. Obviously was at Alabama in 2023, started all 14 games there, entered the portal right after they lost to Michigan in the Rose Bowl, then decided to transfer to Ohio State, where he had a really great year this past season, 2024. Won the Rimington Trophy, which is the award for the nation's top center. Second team AP All-American. First team All-Big Ten. Started 10 games for the Ohio State Buckeyes, but then suffered a torn Achilles in practice, missed the final 6 games of that season. I think that's really kind of the big reason that McLaughlin went undrafted, is injury concerns, how he'll come back from that Achilles tear. But this is a guy that he will only be a center. He's only a center prospect, but super intelligent, knows exactly what he wants to do on each play before the ball is snapped. A guy that can organize the offensive line, a leader on an offensive line, gritty, just a gritty player, has really good core strength, able to pull, block, effectively get to the second level. Doesn't have ideal kind of knockdown strength, but he has the technique to be a really great center. But a lack of length, I think, in terms of arms and also just his range, kind of was also part of the reason that he fell. He will need to work on that if he wants to succeed in the NFL. But also signed with the Cincinnati Bengals, who has Ted Karras as their center, but really doesn't have a lot of depth on that offensive line. They've had struggles on the O-line the past couple of years. I think this is a really good landing spot for Seth McLaughlin, a place that he could potentially become a full-time starter down the line. Another guy that I really liked was Jared Ivey. Jared Ivey from Seattle. From Ole Miss, signed with the Seattle Seahawks. A guy that's been productive for 3 years. 2022, played in all 13 games, 7 starts, had 37 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Then 2023, 11.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, Peach Bowl MVP, all 13, 12 starts, had 46 tackles. Then 2024, third team All-SEC, 12 games and 11 starts, 42 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. This is a guy that has had 3 straight seasons of really productive years. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get drafted. I really thought he was going to be a fourth, fifth round pick, but it kind of seems like his strengths, weaknesses lead to an almost feast or famine type of playing style. His rush is kind of segmented. It's really leggy, doesn't have a lot of short area closing burst, not a strong anchor, doesn't have great contact, but he's really slippery. He's able to kind of use that stride, that length, and swivel his upper body, shapeshift, circumvent blocks. Does need to play with a little more edge, I think, but definitely has a lot of disruption potential to be a 4-3 defensive end down the line. Also sub-rush potential kind of on the inside on different packages. I think that's also a big thing here with Jared Ivey. I forgot his name for a minute. Jamin Dumas-Johnson, I think, is another guy from the Packers, going to the Packers. Former Georgia guy, transferred to Kentucky this past season. Kind of really struggled at Kentucky. Looked lost at times there. He still led the team with 67 tackles, had 7 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks, but not nearly as productive as he was at Georgia, not as impressive on tape. If you look at 2022, on that national championship team, he started all 15 games for them. He led the team with 9 tackles for loss, was a second-team All-AP All-American that year, had 70 tackles, 4 sacks in 22 for the national champion Bulldogs. Then also 23, started the first 9 games, then he missed the rest of the regular season because he broke his left forearm. But in those 9 games, 34 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. This is a guy that has had a ton of production in his career. His Georgia tape is really impressive. And I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't drafted just based off of what he did at Georgia in those 2 seasons. I think probably a lot of it had to do with kind of his lack of consistency on his 2024 tape at Kentucky. But I think this is a guy that has 3 down, definitely a 3rd down option. He knows how to track down the ball. Doesn't have a lot of speed, explosiveness, but just he's around the ball all the time. A guy that had a ton of production at a high level program. And I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't anybody took a flyer on him at a certain time. Then the last guy that I think is really kind of interesting, Tommy Hill, cornerback from Nebraska. This is a guy that has pretty good length for the position, 6.5 inches, 6 foot, 213 about, good size, good length. He had an interesting career at Nebraska. Played in 11 games in 2022, and then the second half of that year, he switched from cornerback to kind of a wide receiver kick returner role. Didn't have any receptions then. Then 2023, he spent the first half of the season as a 2-way player. Again, didn't have receptions, no reception on offense. Then focused on cornerback the second part of that season. Honorable mention All Big Ten conference cornerback. 4 interceptions, 9 pass breakups that year. And then this past season, only played in 7 games, 5 starts, missed the last 6 games with plantar fasciitis. But this is a guy that's got really interesting traits, good top-end speed for a cornerback, but kind of needs to work on transitions, on his short area burst. Much better in terms of zone coverage right now. Can read routes really well. Has the ball skills, kind of the length to squeeze, to close down throwing windows around him. And I think this is a guy that if you look at that 23 tape, it's a lot more impressive. But definitely needs more experience. Doesn't have a lot of career snaps at cornerback. Can be fooled kind of by press release at times, stem fakes and man coverage. Also, though, I think this interesting point of this was his athleticism score, which is kind of estimated just in terms of all the combine drills they do and that stuff. His athleticism score was a 94 overall, and that was first among 2025 cornerback prospects. I really thought that was kind of an impressive trait, and just the fact that he has that much athletic ability kind of bodes well towards his development, what he could potentially do down the line with more reps, with more time in an NFL system. I think that's a guy that could have an impact somewhere down the line for a franchise. So I want to take another short break now. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Pac-12, their new TV deal for this upcoming season, what it means, and what it means for their future in 2025 and beyond. But we'll be back shortly on the GSMC College Football Podcast.